The cool autumn breeze whispered through the streets of Ravenwood as Jason and his group of friends gathered at their usual spot by the old oak tree. Laughter and chatter filled the air as they shared stories of their day, their excitement palpable beneath the starry sky. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the group, scattering leaves and papers in its wake. Among the debris, a tattered flyer fluttered to the ground, its edges frayed and its colors faded. Curious, Jason reached down and picked it up, his eyes scanning the cryptic message printed on its surface. "The Carnival of Revelations," he read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. The words seemed to dance before his eyes, taunting him with promises of secrets untold and mysteries unveiled. The flyer depicted a sinister carnival tent, its striped awnings billowing in the wind like the sails of a ghost ship. Strange symbols adorned its sides, their meanings lost to the passage of time. Shadows lurked in the corners, their forms shifting and twisting like specters in the night. "Looks creepy," Samantha remarked, peering over Jason's shoulder. Her dark curls framed her face like a halo, her eyes alight with curiosity. "What's it for?" Jason shrugged, his brow furrowed in thought. "No idea," he admitted. "But I've never seen anything like it before." Mark, always the daredevil of the group, grinned mischievously. "Only one way to find out," he declared, his voice tinged with excitement. "Let's go check it out." His words hung in the air, lingering like a ghostly whisper. The group exchanged uncertain glances, each one silently weighing the risks and rewards of their decision. But curiosity got the better of them, and with a collective nod, they set off into the night, their footsteps echoing on the deserted streets. The carnival awaited, its secrets calling to them like a siren song. As they rounded the final corner, the carnival came into view, its neon lights casting an eerie glow over the darkened landscape. The air hummed with excitement, the sounds of laughter and music mingling with the rustle of leaves in the wind. The group hesitated for a moment, their nerves tingling with anticipation. But then, with a shared glance and a silent nod, they stepped through the entrance gates and into the unknown. The Carnival of Revelations awaited, ready to reveal its secrets to those brave enough to seek them out. The group hesitated for a moment, their nerves tingling with anticipation. But then, with a shared glance and a silent nod, they stepped through the entrance gates and into the unknown. The Carnival of Revelations awaited, ready to reveal its secrets to those brave enough to seek them out. The group ventured further into the carnival, their anticipation mingling with excitement and apprehension. As they wandered through the maze of attractions, they stumbled upon the Hall of Mirrors, its entrance adorned with intricate carvings and mysterious symbols. Jason grinned mischievously as he gestured toward the entrance. "Careful in there, Samantha," he teased, his tone half joking, half loving. "You might get lost in your own reflection." Samantha laughed, her confidence shining like a beacon in the dimly lit corridor. "Don't worry about me," she replied, her voice tinged with amusement. "I can handle a few mirrors." With a flick of her hair, she disappeared into the hall, her friends trailing behind her like shadows in the night. But as they ventured deeper into the maze of glass and light, a sense of unease began to settle over them like a heavy fog. Samantha's laughter echoed through the hall, her reflection dancing in the myriad mirrors that lined the walls. But as she gazed upon her own image, a sense of dread washed over her like a wave crashing against the shore. Her reflection seemed to distort and warp before her eyes, her flawless features contorting into grotesque shapes and twisted forms. Panic gripped her heart as she stumbled backward, her mind reeling with fear. Frantically, she searched for an exit, her footsteps echoing through the silent hall. But no matter which way she turned, she found herself trapped in a labyrinth of mirrors, her own reflection mocking her from every angle. Desperation clawed at her chest as she pounded on the glass, her cries for help lost in the empty void. But her friends were nowhere to be found, their voices swallowed by the darkness that surrounded her. Hours passed like an eternity as Samantha wandered the hall, her hope dwindling with each passing moment. But just as she was about to surrender to despair, she stumbled upon a mirror unlike any she had seen before. Her reflection stared back at her with hollow eyes, its expression twisted into a grotesque parody of her own. With a final scream of terror, she lunged forward, her hands reaching out to touch the glass. But instead of feeling cold, hard glass beneath her fingertips, she felt only emptiness, as if the mirror had swallowed her whole. And as the last traces of her presence faded from the hall, her friends were left assuming Samantha ran off with some guy. With a rumble of hunger in his belly, John's eyes lit up as he caught sight of the row of food stalls lining the carnival grounds. His mouth watered at the tantalizing aromas wafting through the air, each scent promising a feast fit for a king. "Guys, I'm starving," John declared, his voice echoing with anticipation. "I'm gonna go grab some grub." Jason chuckled, his gaze flickering with amusement. "Just don't eat everything in sight, okay?" he joked, his tone laced with affection. With a wave of his hand, John set off toward the nearest food stall, his stomach growling like a beast awakened from slumber. The stalls were a riot of color and activity, each one offering a tempting array of treats guaranteed to satisfy even the most insatiable appetite. John's eyes widened in delight as he surveyed the spread before him, his mouth watering at the sight of fried Twinkies, cotton candy, funnel cake, candy apples, and more. With eager hands, he grabbed one of each, his senses overwhelmed by the symphony of flavors that awaited him. One by one, he devoured the carnival delicacies, his laughter mingling with the chatter of the crowd around him. But as he ate, a strange sensation washed over him, a feeling of fullness that seemed to stretch his stomach to its limits. Ignoring the warning signs, John continued to indulge, his hunger driving him to consume more and more until he could barely move beneath the weight of his gluttony. His body swelled grotesquely, his skin stretching taut over bloated flesh as he teetered on the brink of collapse. But just as he reached the point of no return, a deafening explosion ripped through the air, sending shockwaves through the carnival grounds. And as the smoke cleared and the dust settled, all that remained of the once jovial John was a gruesome sight that bore witness to his demise. Gluttony had claimed its final victim, leaving nothing but devastation in its wake. The tunnel of love beckoned to Mark and Jen like a siren's call, its entrance shrouded in darkness and mystery. With a playful smile, Mark took Jen's hand in his own, their fingers intertwining like lovers bound by fate. "Be careful in there, you two," Jason quipped, his tone laced with both just and genuine concern. "We don't need any unexpected surprises." Mark chuckled, his gaze locked with Jen's as they stepped into the darkness together. The air was thick with anticipation as they settled into the small boat, their hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the water beneath them. As the boat glided through the tunnel, Mark and Jen found themselves enveloped in a cocoon of darkness, their whispers mingling with the soft murmur of the water around them. With each passing moment, their closeness grew, their hands drifting closer and closer until they were mere inches apart. But as they surrendered to the moment, a sudden jolt rocked the boat, sending ripples cascading through the water. Mark and Jen barely had time to react before the boat tipped over, plunging them into the icy depths below. The water swallowed them whole, its icy embrace pulling them down into the darkness below. Desperate hands reached out from the depths, their grasp like iron chains binding them to their watery grave. The rest of the group waited anxiously by the entrance, their laughter and chatter fading into silence as the minutes ticked by. But when Mark and Jen failed to emerge, they dismissed it as nothing more than a lover's tryst, unaware of the tragedy that had befallen their friends. And as the tunnel of love remained shrouded in darkness, its secrets hidden beneath the surface, Mark and Jen were lost to the depths forever, their love destined to remain forever entwined in the watery embrace of the carnival's darkest secret. The group went by the games of chance. Titus was pulled in by the strength tester. Titus stood before the strength tester game, his muscles flexing beneath his taut skin as he eyed the mallet with determination. His friends cheered him on, their voices echoing in the bustling carnival air as anticipation crackled like electricity around him. With a deep breath, Titus gripped the mallet tightly in his hands, his gaze fixed on the target before him. He swung with all his might, the sound of wood striking metal ringing out like a battle cry. But as the bell remained stubbornly silent, a flicker of frustration crossed Titus's face, his competitive spirit igniting like a flame in the darkness. "I can do better than that," he muttered through gritted teeth, his eyes blazing with determination. Jason placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, his voice tinged with concern. "Don't push yourself too hard, Titus," he warned. "We don't want you to miss out on all the fun." But Titus waved him off, his focus unyielding as he lined up for another swing. The rest headed off, saying they would meet up when he was done. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as he brought the mallet crashing down once more, the force of his blow sending shockwaves through his body. Yet despite his efforts, the bell remained out of reach, its mocking silence fueling the fire burning within him. With each failed attempt, memories of his abusive father flooded his mind, his fists clenched in rage as he imagined striking back with every ounce of strength he possessed. But as he swung again and again, a strange sensation washed over him, a searing heat that seemed to emanate from his very core. Flames licked at his skin, their touch like a fiery embrace as they consumed him whole. With a final cry of anguish, Titus collapsed to the ground, his body engulfed in flames that danced and flickered in the darkness. And as the carnival air filled with the acrid scent of burning flesh as Titus the star quarterback was swallowed by the flames of his own wrath. As the group of friends delved deeper into the heart of the carnival, they stumbled upon the carousel, its vibrant lights casting a mesmerizing glow over the area. Excited chatter filled the air as they approached, anticipation mounting with each step. The remaining friends eagerly boarded the carousel, their faces beaming with excitement as they settled onto the ornate horses. Nick, their gamer friend, reluctantly tore his eyes away from his phone, stashing it into his pocket before joining them. Taking a seat on one of the brightly painted horses, Nick's gaze quickly returned to his phone as the carousel set into motion. Immersed in the digital world of his game, he seemed oblivious to the bustling atmosphere around him, his fingers moving deftly across the screen. As the carousel spun, the colorful lights blended into a dazzling display, accompanied by the joyful laughter of children and the cheerful tunes of the carnival. Amidst the whirl of activity, Nick remained engrossed in his game, disconnected from the world unfolding around him. When the ride came to a stop, the friends disembarked one by one, leaving Nick behind as he remained fixated on his phone. Despite Jason's attempts to coax him to join the group, Nick remained entranced, lost in his own virtual reality. Reluctantly, the group decided to leave Nick behind, assuming he would catch up with them later. As they walked away, Nick remained seated on the carousel, his attention still consumed by his game. Unaware of his surroundings, Nick failed to notice as the carousel began to spin once more. With each rotation, he seemed to fade further into the background, his presence diminishing with each passing moment. Finally, as the carousel came to a stop, Nick had vanished completely, leaving behind only an empty seat. Unaware of what had transpired, the remaining friends continued on their journey through the carnival, oblivious to the fact that their companion had mysteriously disappeared. The colossal red and yellow-striped tent loomed ahead, its hand-painted lettering proclaiming, "Giggles Galore. Charlie Chuckles and Company" in garish hues. Jason, ever the optimist, clapped his hands in delight. "Guys, break time. Clowns, perfect timing. Maybe it'll finally cheer Katie up. She's been awfully down all day." He nudged her gently, his concern evident in the lines etched on his face. "Come on, cheer up. It's a carnival, for goodness sake." Katie forced a smile, the hollowness within her echoing despite the vibrant colors swirling around them. Her gaze darted towards the tent's entrance, where laughter spilled forth like a cascade of popcorn kernels. Inside, clowns cavorted under the spotlight, their pratfalls eliciting waves of laughter, a symphony she yearned to join. But all she could manage was a choked, humorless cough. Her mind flickered to Sarah, her childhood best friend who'd blossomed into a stunning beauty and undeniable popularity, leaving Katie perpetually in her shadow. Why did everyone gravitate towards Sarah while she remained a mere footnote? Even John, the group's resident goofball capable of tripping over air, brought more joy than she ever could. Tears welled up in Katie's eyes, blurring the already distorted scene before her. The final act ended with a flurry of confetti and a chorus of guffaws. Jason and Jeff hooped, their hands raw from clapping. Katie, however, remained frozen, rooted to the spot. Their friends, oblivious to her silent struggle, started heading out. "Coming, Katie?" Jason called over his shoulder. Katie offered no response, her form rigid and motionless. Jason, concerned, suggested she just needed a moment, while Jeff proposed leaving and meeting her later. With that, Jason and Jeff disappeared into the throng, leaving Katie alone in the silent tent. As their figures faded from view, so did Katie, vanishing without a trace. Jason watched intently as Jeff sidled up to a booth with a garishly painted Wheel of Fortune. The booth promised an enticing array of prizes, from plush toys to a sleek new gaming system and, unbelievably, a car emblazoned on the very edge. Greed flickered in Jeff's eyes. "Come on, man," Jason cautioned, nudging him. "These carnival games are rigged. Remember Mark and the strength tester? Dude practically ripped the machine off the ground, and he couldn't even budge the needle." Jeff scoffed. "That one was obvious. But look at this one," he gestured to the wheel. "The good sections are actually big, not those tiny slivers on the others. It's gotta be different this time." Jason rolled his eyes. "Jeff, you don't need that stuff. Your parents buy you everything you could ever want." "It's not about needing it," Jeff countered, already digging into his pocket. "It's about winning. Imagine cruising down the street in that car." The first spin landed agonizingly close to the coveted gaming system. Jason sighed in relief. "See, just your luck. Now let's get out of here." But the spark of ambition refused to die in Jeff's eyes. "One more try," he pleaded, pulling out another bill. "This has gotta be it." With each subsequent spin, the prizes seemed to taunt Jeff closer, a cruel game of cat and mouse. Each whir of the wheel echoed with imagined glory, the roar of the car engine, the triumph of winning. Reality blurred as Jeff's obsession grew, his eyes fixed on the wheel, fueled by a desperate need to claim something, anything, for himself. As Jason grew impatient, he finally announced, "I'm going to hit the haunted house. I'll wait 5 minutes, but if you're not here by then, I'm going alone." Jeff barely acknowledged him, simply muttering, "I'll be there." Jason then headed out of sight. Jeff was a man possessed, oblivious to the world around him. When his pockets were practically empty, with only one last dollar left, a chilling realization dawned on Jeff. Jason's words echoed in his hollow mind, "You don't need it." He thrust his last dollar at the carny running the game and spun the wheel with maniacal fervor. It spun faster than ever before, a hypnotic blur before his eyes. His gaze remained fixed on the mesmerizing wheel, his vision blurring with each revolution. As the wheel finally came to a stop, Jeff vanished, leaving behind nothing but an echoing silence. The prize booth stood empty, a testament to the chilling power of the carnival. The glittering promises had claimed another victim, consumed by the insatiable hunger for more. The haunted house loomed before Jason, its facade a skeletal grin bathed in an eerie green glow. Jason took a deep breath, steeling himself for manufactured scares. The first room assaulted him with a grotesque funhouse mirror display. Distorted faces stretched and contorted, mouths agape in silent screams. A flicker of movement in a far corner caught his eye. Was that Samantha, her face twisted in terror? The next scene sent a tremor of unease through him. A monstrous figure was being force-fed, its body ballooning grotesquely until it erupted in a spray of what looked suspiciously like red paint. "John?" The question flickered through his mind, but the effect was so realistic. Was it just special effects? The following room was an unsettling tableau of a broken swan boat, creepy cherubs with vacant eyes and disembodied hands grasping from the water. Just as he turned to leave, 2 pairs of clawed hands shot out, their faces startlingly similar to Mark and Jen. Maybe the haunted house wasn't as predictable as he thought. Next came a chaotic brawl between monstrous figures. One swung a mallet with a fury that made Jason flinch. "Titus?" The face beneath the mask seemed to sneer at him. Then came a hallway with figures flickering in and out of view, A cheap Pepper's ghost effect, he scoffed. But wait, wasn't that Nick, disappearing into the ether? A cacophony of cackling clowns filled the following room. Clowns? Jason had never understood the fear. Until his gaze landed on a red-nosed, white-faced figure with an unervingly familiar glint in its eyes, Katie. A sense of dread settled in his gut. The next room, however, seemed harmless, a glittering cavern overflowing with gold coins cascading from the ceiling. But a sense of unease prickled him. Hands clawed their way through the golden cascade, and in the corner, a spinning wheel displayed a macabre slideshow, one face, unmistakably Jeff's, contorted in a final scream. The final room stopped him cold. Skeletons. A skeletal executioner, a skeletal figure blindfolded holding a scale in one hand and a scythe in the other with one eye peeking out of the blindfold, a skeletal judge, and a jury of monstrous figures, each bearing an uncanny resemblance to his friends, their faces twisted in malevolent judgment. As a booming voice declared him innocent, a wave of relief washed over him, so intense he barely registered the chilling addendum, "Let him go." He stumbled out of the haunted house, heart pounding. The carnival lights seemed to mock him, the laughter a grotesque echo. He didn't care. He just needed to get home. He sprinted through the deserted midway, only realizing much later that the carnival, with its twisted reflections of his fears, had vanished without a trace. Left alone with his chilling encounter, Jason was no longer sure who was truly innocent. Jason collapsed into bed, his limbs heavy with exhaustion. The haunted house had taken its toll, leaving him jittery and drained. As sleep finally claimed him, the carnival scenes replayed in his mind, a distorted reflection of reality. Morning arrived, tinged with an unsettling uncertainty. Had it all been an elaborate dream, fueled by adrenaline and fear? But the lingering unease in his gut refused to be dismissed. He rushed through his morning routine, driven by the need to escape the suffocating silence of his empty house and find his friends. The first bell clanged, a harsh reminder of reality. He hurried to his chemistry class, his heart pounding in his chest. Katie's empty seat mocked him, her usual bright smile replaced by a chilling emptiness. He scanned the room, searching for familiar faces, but was met only with bewildered expressions. A knot of dread tightened in his stomach. English class offered no solace. Nick's empty desk gaped at him, an accusing reminder of his absence. He often skips, Jason thought, desperately clinging to a shred of hope. Katie's missing seat could just be a coincidence, a fluke he desperately wanted to believe. But his hope dwindled further during PE with Titus. When Titus, usually the first one there and the life of the class, was also absent, a chilling certainty settled into Jason's gut. Something was terribly wrong. Lunch offered no comfort. His attempts to spark conversation with classmates yielded confused stares. No one knew about the carnival, no one recognized the names of his friends. A cold terror gripped him. He felt like a stranger in his own school, his entire reality warped beyond recognition. Driven by a desperate need for answers, Jason approached the football team, the center of the school's social scene. They seemed completely oblivious to the existence of the carnival, although a couple of them mentioned it sounded like fun if they'd known about it. When he mentioned their star quarterback, Titus, and how he led them to a state championship, their faces contorted in confusion. "We wish we knew a guy like that," one of them chuckled. "Our school hasn't won a state title in over 30 years. Jason's blood ran cold. It was then that the truth, monstrous and undeniable, slammed into him. The carnival was real, and it had devoured his friends, their very existence erased. He was the sole survivor, left to navigate a reality twisted beyond recognition, haunted by the echoes of lost friendships and the chilling secrets of the carnival. As he stood there, a solitary figure amidst a sea of oblivious faces, a single, horrifying question echoed in his mind. Was he truly innocent? Would the carnival really let him go?